Hey friends, welcome back to my channel in what are again very strange and unprecedented times. No sooner have we just come out of restrictions after dealing with a microscopic invader that's been disrupting the world for the past couple of years, and that's still around. We now have a much more dangerous and more evil invader to deal with. So my thoughts are of course with all the Ukrainians at the moment and everybody who is working to support and defend them. There's a lot of courage being shown out there at the moment in such horrifying times that are impossible for us to imagine. So yeah, let's hope this is resolved as quickly as possible. I'm not going to say any more about it than that though, because I'm not an expert in these things, and there's more than enough being said about it in the news, and I'm trying to limit my exposure to the news as well at the moment. There's no shame in doing that, in like muting phrases and things on Twitter, for example, or unsubscribing to news sites. It doesn't mean you don't care, it just means you're controlling how much exposure you get. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on as I always do. I hope these videos and my posts will be a distraction from everything that's going on in the world. I haven't been out to any museums or theatres this month. That's resuming next month in March when I've got quite a bit planned. I've been out for some nice walks though in central London, and there are some photos on my Instagram of some of the things I've discovered if you want to go and check that stuff out. And I did also meet a friend as well during the month, which was lovely. Hadn't seen her for a little while, so we had a pizza together and went for a walk in Regent's Park. So yeah, it's been nice to get out and about again. I'm looking forward to getting back into more regular socialising and other activities again as the weeks and months go on. But it does mean that for this video, it's another one that's based around entertainment, basically TV and films for the most part. None of it is sponsored or gifted, all opinions are my own, all that usual stuff. And yeah, that's what I need to say by way of an introduction, really. Not the most cheerful month, as I say, at the moment. But as I say, I'm doing fine, and I hope you all are as well. And so, yeah, let's just crack on with what I've been enjoying this month, and I hope you enjoy it.
So to start with, and for a change this month, I've been watching a few real-life crime documentaries. I don't watch these kind of things very often, but I've got drawn into a few on Netflix this month. They've all been disturbing yet fascinating in their own way, and they all have audio description too, which really helps. So the first one I saw was called The Puppet Master, Hunting the Ultimate Con Man, and I got into this one in particular because it was audio described by a good friend of mine called Fern Lulham, who I've known since I met her at the Anna Riggio conference some years ago. We've been good friends ever since. She'd interviewed me for a couple of her radio shows, stuff like that. So, she has extensive experience with public speaking and radio shows and podcasting. So this new venture into audio description is a natural progression, and she's very, very good at it. Anyway, The Puppet Master is a very compelling and, as I say, disturbing little mini-series about a guy called Robert Hendy Freegard, who went to extraordinary lengths over long periods of time to manipulate and seduce and kidnap and imprison his victims and take their money from them, isolate them from their friends and families, and make sure they were completely reliant on him. He even convinced them that he was an MI5 spy in some cases. And these weren't gullible people. These were people who, as I say, he gradually manipulated over time. So even when they were getting suspicious, he was able to kind of allay their fears and persuade them that he was doing the right thing and that they should be with him. So it's very kind of crazy and disturbing about how good he was at what he did. And he was eventually caught and ended up in prison, but was then released over a technicality on appeal, and he's now still out there somewhere with at least one of his victims who has been so brainwashed that they want to stay with him. We don't really go into the psychology of it too deeply, which is a shame because it's a key part of it. They kind of go into it a little bit, but it would have been great if they delved into that side of things much more. But nevertheless, we still get a good sense of how he did it and how far he was able to push people. So it is well worth a watch. It's very, very interesting. And then after that, I saw The Tinder Swindler, which has been talked about a lot on social media recently. And this is a 2-hour film about a convicted fraudster called Simon Leviev, who seduced women in several countries around the world through dating apps and extorted huge amounts of money from them. He pretended he was the son of a billionaire and appeared to live a lavish lifestyle. He would take the women on private jets to fancy hotels and would spoil them and so on. But what these women didn't know was that he was spending other women's money on them. And he was getting each of these women to give him money by pretending he was in trouble. He was on the run from his enemies, just having to defend himself. He was having all his assets blocked from him and so on. So these women were taking out loans and credit cards that he promised to pay back and of course never did. And of course, looking as an outsider, it's easy to question how the women could be so gullible and so blinded by love to fall for that when there are some too good to be true signs that were clearly there. Why, if he's the son of a billionaire and if he's very rich, why is he suddenly asking for thousands of dollars out of nowhere? Why couldn't he go to his father to get that money? And why is he on dating apps if he's that rich? Because he wouldn't need to be, surely. There's all these questions that could be asked. But of course, unless you've been in that situation, it's impossible to know and fully understand what it's like, And he did seduce and groom these women and really spoilt them and sent them lots of loving messages and everything. So they were deeply in love with him and believed he really loved them. And it was therefore really satisfying to see one of the women was able to get at least some revenge on him by selling some of his possessions possessions and pocketing the money for herself, and was able to get him arrested and things. He hasn't been convicted for all of his deceptions, and he was only imprisoned for a short period, so he's still out there now somewhere, and his victims are still paying off their debts. But the fact that he's been made public in this way should hopefully reduce the risk of other women falling for his lies. And then thirdly, again, as Netflix was naturally recommending all sorts of shows to me of this nature, I saw a show called Don't Fuck With Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer. And this is a 3-part series from 2019 about a guy called Luca Magnotta, who basically posted sickening videos of himself killing cats online and was hunted by a group of nerdy sleuths online as a result. And the two main leaders of the group lead the storytelling in the documentary about how they tried to track him down and everything. They tried to inform the authorities, but that didn't really work because there was nothing they felt they could do. And they only really perked up their ears, the police, when he actually ended up murdering someone in a video that was also posted online. And then the police did finally get involved, and we hear a lot about their investigation from that point. And then there's another twist in the final episode of this 3-part series where it's suggested that Luca was forced by someone else to commit these evil acts, but then that isn't all it seems either. So again, he's this kind of really strange and evil guy who is clearly desperate for attention, and the lengths he went to get that attention are just completely unfathomable and sick and disturbing. You can't really comprehend how someone could be so awful, but he was convicted and he is still in prison, thankfully, this guy. So yeah, all those different documentaries were really, really interesting. And then also, in terms of fictional crime, again on Netflix, I enjoyed a series called Clickbait. And this story begins with the kidnapping of a guy called Nick Brewer, who is forced to appear in an online video holding up a sign saying that he abuses women, with the threat that he'll be killed if that video reaches 5 million views. And so we follow his family and the police as they investigate why this has happened to someone that they believe to be a perfectly nice guy. But as they investigate this really complicated web is unraveled as the mystery deepens further and further. And each of the 8 episodes takes a close look at one person in particular as the trail of evidence is followed, and there are twists and revelations and cliffhangers throughout. So it is nowhere near what it appears to be at first. It really does kind of change as the story progresses. It's quite interesting. It's quite good. And then in terms of movies, I saw a few films online this month. The first was the 2021 film Don't Look Up, again on Netflix, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence among several other big names. And this is about a couple of astronomers who discover a huge comet heading straight for Earth that will wipe out everything on the planet, all life basically. But they can't get the government and the media or the public to take it seriously. And when they finally do persuade the president and others to actually do something, their attempts to drive the comet off course are derailed by political and financial greed, and others continue to claim that it's fake news and everything. And it's only when the comet becomes visible in the sky and is about to hit them that they realise that actually it's not fake news and they should have taken it a lot more seriously, but of course it's too late by then. And it is a satirical film and there are a few amusing moments in there, but it also has a serious message underlying it because it is a deliberately accurate reflection of how the world is reacting to climate change, because many people are still refusing to believe that it's a major issue despite all the evidence and the warnings that make it clear that it is a serious problem. And so it's had positive feedback from climate scientists and has received nominations for this year's Oscars as well, among other accolades it's been up for. So yeah, it is reasonably entertaining. It was a nice way to spend an evening. It's not as amazing as some people claim it to be, in my view, for me personally, but it was certainly worth a look, especially given the issues that it relates to and everything. And then over on Amazon, meanwhile, I saw a couple of films there too. So I saw the 2011 sci-fi action film called Source Code, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as an army captain called Colter Stevens, and he's repeatedly sent back into the 8-minute time span before a train is blown up in a terrorist attack in order to try and figure out who did it. And it's a lot of fun. There are some good special effects in there, and the technology is nicely imagined, even though it's obviously impossible in real life. And ultimately, though, the film is about Colter's character more than the technology and the effects and everything. It's about Colter's increasingly desperate desire to try and change history and save everyone's lives, and the revelations about why he's involved in this mission to begin with. And there's some nice twists along the way right up to the end. So yeah, it's a good solid film there. I enjoyed it. And then also on Amazon, I saw a thriller called See For Me, which was recommended to me by my friend Claire, and it stars a visually impaired actress called Skylar Davenport, who plays a blind former skier called Sophie, who takes up a job of cat-sitting at a big fancy house. But her life is put in danger when burglars arrive with the aim of breaking into the safe, and they discover that she's in the building. And Sophie uses this mobile app called See For Me, which connects blind people to sighted volunteers over video calls to help them out, much like Be My Eyes in the real world, which is a hugely popular app these days. And Sophie is guided in a fight for survival using this app by a gamer called Kelly, who's played by Jessica Parker Kennedy, who I've seen before as Nora West Allen in The Flash on TV. And it's pretty good. There's lots of drama and tension in there. Sophie's character is a bit stubborn at first because she's still struggling to deal with the impact of her disability, but as she has to take extreme measures to survive, she realises how important Kelly's help is to her, and she has to accept that help, and she can't hide her fear either. And there's a nice relationship that builds between the two of them through the film. The only gripe I have, and it's rather ironic given the storyline, is that there's no audio description available. I managed all right without it for most of the film, but there is a lengthy sequence at the end that takes place pretty much in the dark, apart from some pulses of dim red light that are flashing throughout. So it's quite hard to make out what's going on. I'd kind of figured it out, but it would have been really helpful to have audio description for that sequence. But apart from that, yeah, it is a good film on the whole. I still found it pretty entertaining, and it's great that there was a visually impaired actress in the lead role. So well done to Skylar Davenport for that. So then moving on to comedy stuff, and there's not really a lot to mention, to be honest. I've been watching the usual stuff like The Last Leg, QI, Would I Lie to You, and 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. We had Sean Locke's final appearance on that show this month. And on the radio, I've been listening to the new series of Just a Minute as usual as well with Mum. The only other thing to mention really on the comedy front is that I'm getting some replacement DVDs for the Morecambe and Wise ITV box set that I bought last year. Now, I knew that the picture quality of such old material was never going to be great to begin with, and with dodgy vision and no technical expertise, I assumed that what I was seeing was correct, because Mum and I have been watching quite a few of the episodes, and they've been perfectly watchable as they are, to be honest. But it turns out that some of the episodes were, in technical terms, deinterlaced by accident when the discs were being put together, which has impacted the quality further. And having seen the reports about this online, I contacted Network, who made the discs, and included a screenshot of my Amazon order to prove that I'd bought it. And to their credit, they were quick to respond to me and very happy to send me some new discs, so they are coming in the post any day now, which is good. So if you bought the Morecambe and Wise ITV set or the smaller collections of their Thames series and the Christmas shows that Network also released last year, I'll suggest contacting Network with proof of purchase to see if they'll send out replacement discs for them. And then there isn't much to mention on the music front either this month really, but I'll quickly point out a couple of things. Firstly, Madness have generously posted the entire audio of a December 2021 concert from London's O2 Arena on their YouTube channel, so that's good fun to listen to. And then a group called Andy and the Odd Socks from the BBC children's show Andy and the Band have released a single called Planet Rock from their recent episode of the same name that I mentioned last month, where Queen's Brian May was a guest star as the godfather of rock. It's a fun little episode with a good little message for children, and the song's pretty good too. It's not just for kids, it's a song that anyone can enjoy. And the radio station called Planet Rock played it, and they did an interview with Brian May as well that you can listen to online, where he talks about how he got involved with that. So yeah, that's good fun as well.
And that's it. That's all I have to mention for this month. So I hope you found that interesting and enjoyable, even if there wasn't a huge amount to talk about. Normal service will finally be resuming in March, though, I'm happy to say, as I've got a lot planned there. I've got a couple of theatre shows that I'm going to see, one of which I'm particularly looking forward to, as it's been on my bucket list to get around to for ages. And then I'm going to a few museums as well for the first time in a couple of years, which should be very interesting. And some of that stuff is taking place outside of London, as I'm going away on a little mini break for a week, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, there's going to be lots to talk about, and there may well be some detailed blog posts as the month goes on, as I write about certain things. So keep an eye on my blog as well as my YouTube channel. And yeah, I hope you have fun with whatever you're getting up to as well. It's nice that things are opening up again. Obviously, be careful as well, because the virus is still out there. But it's nice that we can get out there and have fun and meet people and just do stuff again, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's all I have to mention for this month, though. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching that. As per usual, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and subscribe to my blog and social media as well to see the stuff I post there. And I will see you for another video very soon. Bye for now.